Well, good morning, Colorado Front Range, Arizona, and beyond. This is not the Colorado Front Range News Hour. This is the Patriot Radio News Hour. Excuse me, get my tongue squared away there. And no, this is not a replay. This is Tuesday edition, July 6, 2021. Thanks for joining us this morning. The boss man is away for another day. I think he'll be back tomorrow. I know that's what we said Friday, but you get the fill-ins again. Brian, this is Bryan and Jason here in Colorado, filling in for Joe. So I hope everyone had a good Independence Day weekend, considering what's left of our liberties, our God-given liberties, I should say. Nice, decent weather here in Colorado. I'm sure it's warm in Arizona. It looks like we missed a national day on Sunday, Sidewalk Egg Frying Day, and something tells me that was probably applicable for you folks down there in the Valley of the Sun, Arizona. So with that aside, Patriot Trading Group is the reason for this show. It is the show. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. Legal, lawful, constitutional, and biblical money for thousands of years, gold and silver. We've been getting it into your hands to add some heft to your portfolio. Loyal, satisfied customers, and we appreciate every single one of you. Right, Jason?
Absolutely, yeah. We're gonna have a good show today, Brian, and we love our customers, we love our listeners. Brian and I, Joe's just like Brian and I. He's here for most of his shows. He doesn't like to have a day off. He's feeling a little under the weather today. It's interesting. I had my wedding anniversary last Wednesday. Took a day off, and I actually didn't really enjoy my day off because I wasn't feeling too good. And then, of course, the sewage explosion of KHNC happened that day. That the one day I take off, and but it's funny, Brian. It's kind of the reverse. I had a really good, refreshing weekend. I'm glad that we took the holiday off from Monday. You know, took the extra day. I know that you were super extra busy on your end, and Joe started feeling a little under the weather yesterday. But I feel refreshed and good, so I'm glad to have the extra day. We're going to talk a little bit about Independence Day on this show, but that's what's good about having a couple of guys, Brian. When one guy is down, hopefully the other guy can pick up the slack, which is what we're doing today.
Yep, that was Joe's plan 3 years ago, and hopefully it's at least partially serving what his intentions were. But yeah, I feel like at least my efforts yesterday lined up with what yesterday's National Day one of them was, and that's National Workaholics Day. So I at least lived up to that one. So for whatever that's worth,
National Workaholics Day. I mean,
yeah.
I don't. Every time Brian reads these days of the week, I have to sit there and try to wrap my brain around it. A workaholic, I mean, addicted to work. Is that really such a thing, Brian, or is it just, hey, I need to make my corner of the world work better, and I need to make sure that I put as much effort into making it work? I mean, I don't know, is that an addiction?
Yeah, well, maybe it's an addiction knowing what the radio station needs, and the specifics were the streaming was having issues, and here's one of those where we're paying a company, the Patriot's paying a company, the station is, to provide this web streaming service. Well, it's interesting when the web streaming service decides they're going to upgrade things regardless of how it breaks things on our end. That gives a whole new meaning to that word service. There's a list, right? Postal service. You know what happens when you're getting your livestock bred? That's also called a service, which I think is more appropriate to the new meaning of the new interpretation of the word service. We talk about other words that have changed, had their meanings changed over the decades, and I think service is just one of those.
Well, and I was talking over the weekend with, I've moved to this neighborhood late last year, so I'm still meeting neighbors and making new friends. And I had a guy that he's one of our gold customers in our neighborhood. But I was talking to him. We were talking about, hey, when I bought homes, years ago, he's talking 20 years ago or 25 years ago, and then 15, and then 10 years ago. And he talked about, just like you said, Brian, service. He talked about the builders. And we're going to talk a little bit about homes here later in the show. But he said, yeah, the builders, they used to be such your friend. They really wanted to please, make sure you got the house you wanted. If they hadn't built the house already, they'd ask you, hey, what paint do you want? What kind of counters? Try to really build the house as much as they could within their parameters and make this the home that you want. And now you go to sign a contract on a house, and even if the house isn't built, it's like, this is the precise model we're building. We will not alter it. This is the price. We're doing nothing differently. Even if you're willing to pay the money, hey, I'll put more money down. I'll sign an ironclad guarantee. I'm going to buy the house. You can make all the guarantees you want, Brian, and they're like, no, this is what we're going to build here. If you don't like this one, here's the next one over, and we're building this one this specific way. And it shows, Brian, the strain of what's going on. We're going to talk a little bit about this stuff. I was watching watching a lot of financial news over the weekend. Danielle DiMartino, someone that Joe listens to. I was listening to a few others. Michael Invests, and we got some tricky stuff going on. We got a lot of guys that think that this is the economic pieces and how they fit together, Brian. And why is it that every time a new crash or a new economic strain comes on the horizon, you got these guys that they know, based off what I see, this is what's going to happen. This is what, but we don't control this. There's a system in place, right, Brian? There's these giants that pull the levers and make things happen. They're not going to make things happen the same way every time. They're always going to make it be a little different so that people are off their game. And the so-called experts, when they're wrong, they go hide and their voices get smaller, because guys like Joe and ourselves, we're trying to warn you and help you get into something solid like gold and silver to protect yourself. And they want us to prognosticate and make predictions and be wrong when they crash the next time, so that way those voices get a little quieter, right, Brian?
Yeah, that's right. I just want to remind, I said something on Friday, I want to re-emphasize that point. It's interesting how those that talk down gold and silver and real assets, just that, Jason, when things go different than what they say, their lips kind of get tight, don't they?
Exactly. Hey, we'll talk about that stuff. Got a gold special coming up. 800-951-0592, Arizona, Colorado. I'll be right back.
Welcome back, and yes, good morning. Patriot Radio News Hour. What is that god-awful noise? Well, that's coming from the Colorado duo, Jason and Bryan, filling in for Joe today if you happen to miss the last segment. But stay tuned. We'll hopefully have some worthy information and conversation for you to listen to this morning.
Yeah, I got a couple things, Brian. Let me start into this. If you listen to this show, you listen to the Colorado Front Range News Hour, or go to 1360khnc.com and listen to Colorado's show here, our radio station that we're on. By the way, if you're in Arizona, you got tuned in to 1010, but you could always go to 1360khnc.com and listen. We got we got a lot of cool commercials and local flair here that you might be interested in. Brian, I've been listening. So we had coronavirus last year. We had the flash crash in the markets in March and April, and then it came back. I mean, I'm looking at the markets today, and the Dow is currently down about 335 points at 34,450. But it's up 34,450. That's a huge number. Oh man, we're recovering. The coronavirus is behind us. It's all over with. That's what they keep telling you. It's all over with, and it's not over with. The coronavirus, housing debacles, 9/11 incidents, these are emergencies that are there to mask what's actually going on. And the Ponzi scheme that's the Federal Reserve System is weakening, and there's going to have to be some sort of a change. Money is an idea, and all you have to do is change the idea of the money. And they'll do their magic trick, and the TV will tell you it will mesmerize most of the world. And it'll keep on going the way it's going. Brian, I thought we'd have a massive crash coming late this year, early next year, and I watch it like everybody else does. But I don't see massive crash, end of the economy in America, going down the toilet in 2 or 3 years or 5 years. I think that just like coronavirus is a weapon of fear against the population, I think the whole what's going to happen to these up and down markets, they use the fear of the next market crash against us, and it's going to go up and down. It's meant to steal from us and to give to those that be, the powers that be, the Federal Reserve System. the government-controlled world that we're in. Those governments are controlled by these bankers. So, Brian, when I'm watching a lot of these prognosticators that are like-minded, like us, like Joe, like you and me, you know, a lot of them are saying, hey, later this year, things are going to go crazy. Early next year, things are going to go crazy. And man, this market's going to get smashed and crashed. I really kind of don't believe that anymore, Brian. I believe that this roller coaster ride that we're on is just going to keep on going, and we're going to get gradually over time a lower standard of living until Americans eventually accept a quasi-slave state of a socialist government, which they call democracy. And I'm going to give an example of currently, you know, what's going on, Brian, you know, and why I keep believing that, yeah, there's going to be a crash in the market, but it's going to be temporary. It'll be severe for a while, and then they'll just bring it back. Because, Brian, if you control what people think through your media and your government, and you control the money, who gets paid what, really, you can kind of control the whole narrative of how bad it is or how good it is, right?
Well, that's right. And I don't want to refer back to that documentary, The Inside Job. Now, you know, it's not about 9/11. This is about the market crash in 2007, 2008. The very end of that documentary, I think 2010 is when that was first came out. It on the screen, I don't think it's a person talking, it's just in text. Nothing has changed. The terminology has changed. But basically the big banks, I don't know if it goes as far as saying the central banks, but it goes the big banks are on course, Wall Street, to do the exact same thing because they've not changed a single thing. They've given the illusion that they've changed things and that they've fixed things. But you know, I don't know if the Federal Reserve or who it is, Wall Street, that gets credit for coming up with all these terms, kind of like in Batman. Where does he get all those wonderful toys?
Yes.
Where do they get all these wonderful terms that they keep relabeling the same thing over and over?
And it's orchestrated and it's timed to have these up and down roller coaster rides. And I don't think like Sanford and Son, the old man Sanford, he's always every time something bad happened, he got a little stressed. He held his hand to his heart and he says, "I'm coming to join you, honey. Oh, the big one is coming." But it never did come, did it, Brian? But boy, did he get dramatic and scream and holler about the big one coming. And that's, I think, on our side, Brian, a more conservative view on things. I think that's what, if you look at economics the way it's supposed to function, these are easy predictions to make. But since the system's controlled, they can give you the illusion of this next big crash, and then they can still steal from you. So let me give you an example. If you've heard of Blackstone, BlackRock, these big property companies, they come in and they just buy everything. I bought my new home late October, and I think it was less than 30 days, but maybe just over a month, less than a month, over a month. Fannie Mae came and bought that mortgage. Now, when you buy a home and you don't own the house outright, you have a mortgage, and the powers that be, they don't look at it that you own it; they own it. You're kind of leasing to own, or you're just a sharecropper. You're just there to take care of it for them and pay the taxes. Hey, they own it, but you pay the taxes on it. You fix the house up. You take care of the property. While the mortgage, whoever owns that mortgage, they really are the ones that own it. So a lot of the news, if you're one of those guys that looks all over the place, you listen to Joe and other guys, you hear a lot of guys saying, "Oh, there's a housing crash, man. The housing crash is coming." Yep, the housing crash is coming. I'm here to say I don't see it. I don't think it's going to happen. I do think there's going to be a strain on the pricing of houses. But like Blackstone and BlackRock, these property companies, when the mortgage crisis happened and everyone, all these foreclosures and all these bankrupt people, and it was apocalypse, and let's go quantitative easing and bail out the big banks because all these companies, large and small, are smaller than the big players. Well, Blackstone was buying all the properties after the crash. buying it, but just buying tons of houses. Man, did they do good, because they got all the houses at the bottom, and now look at the housing prices, right, Brian? They're exploding. Well, guess what Blackstone is doing right now, Brian? Just see if you can, I'm putting you on the spot, but take a guess what their position is right now.
I have no idea. I don't even want to guess.
They're buying houses now. So tell me, if you're a big, important property buying company, and you just got done making a killing off buying houses after the last crash, why would you buy them now if all the prognosticators are saying, well, it's really horrible, man, things are bad, we're going to have a housing crash?
Unless it's set up to do it just a repeat, different actors, different technology, different day, same script.
Right, but they're buying before, Brian. So if there's going to be a crash coming, and there's going to be a crash, you don't buy a high and sell low. You have to buy low and sell high. So if they're buying all these properties, Brian, there's no way that we're going to have a housing crash. So I'm looking at the timing of things. On our show, if you haven't listened to the Colorado Front Range News Hour, Brian, how many times have you heard me say we may have a housing price crash, but it'll happen in a way that your price of your house could actually go up. Let's just say you have a $500,000 house, and during this really next market crunch, let's just say the Dow goes down 10, 20,000 points, and there's economic stress, and people are getting kicked out of their homes, because that can happen. But your house price goes up $50,000. Hey, my $500,000 house is now $550,000. My house went up 10%. That's pretty good. I mean, things are bad, but things are all right. But if a loaf of bread goes from $3 to $6, the price of the house went up. Great, but really, you're not really doing all that. That's kind of a house price crunch or a crash, because inflation is here, and it can inflate the prices and keep the price of your home up. Brian, what I'm thinking is these big companies are buying up all these homes, because I don't think this inflation is going to stop soon. And so when inflation is going to keep on running, you get into hard assets, and property is another hard asset. It's not as good as gold in my mind, but it's something that holds value. And I think the haves and the have-nots are being determined right now. So one of the things I said, Brian, was in the future, to knock people out of their home ownership, because they don't want us to own property. They don't even want us to own the mortgages anymore. I said,
technically we don't, right?
Yeah, technically we don't.
We pay off our mortgage. All we hold is a certificate of title. Title's still held by each county, I believe.
Correct.
But
correct. And over the last bunch of years, Brian, what do we have that stops the government? We have the debt ceiling. Oh, the debt ceiling. Well, one of these times, because they make it seem like the biggest emergency, and then nothing happens. They come to some agreement in Congress, and then it's over with. One of these times, this debt ceiling is going to get hit. They're going to make it a real emergency. They want you to be afraid of it, because one of these days, it's going to be bad. And I think one of their solutions is going to be, well, we have to pay our debt. America always pays its obligations, Brian, and I think a federal property tax is in the make to so-called pay. Everyone's got to pay their part to fix this next economic mess. And get this. I'm going to give you a few pieces of information. I was listening to Danielle DiMartino
Booth.
Yeah, and she was making some really good observations. I'm going to tie a few things together. They just pushed forbearance back to July 31st. So if you got your free rent and whatever going on, they're going to give you another month. Hey, now it's July 31st. You can just quit paying your mortgage. And there's people that have
kind of like the COVID voluntary lockdown. Just kick it out another month, another 30 days. Kick the can down the road.
But they're not going to keep doing it, Brian. This is one of those things where they're gonna. I think they'll time this to a very precise point. So let me give you a few pieces of information that I think is going to point very strongly that something's getting ready to happen. And all the players in Washington, D.C. are doing their jobs just fine. Trump, Janet Yellen, Biden, all these guys, I'm getting to the point where I think that this is like an orchestra and they all play their instrument. So July 31st, that's the end of forbearance, unless they decide to push it another month, like you said, Brian. Guess what else happens July 31st? You'll never guess, Brian. Guess what happens July 31st? That is the debt ceiling. we hit our next debt ceiling, July 31st. Trump is the one that negotiated the last one, which was July 31st is when they came in for 2019. They did it for 2 more years. Let's push it 2 more years. Coincidentally, that's after the new president came in. Okay, so he pushed it. And Trump did something else. He added a bunch. He added like $600 billion to it, like a cushion. It was kind of, we were giving free money to everybody, right? There's a cushion. So essentially, the government spends about $50 billion a week, give or take, right? That's kind of what it takes to run the country and collect taxes and spend. But we're hemorrhaging $50 billion a week is kind of an average. So on July 31st, there'll be a debt ceiling we're going to hit. Now, from July 4th holiday, which was Sunday, to July 31st, Congress only has 9 days in session. Only 9 more days. And then they go into their break. Their break starts in August, and they won't have another day where they actually vote on anything until September 20th. That's the next day that our Congress will actually be actually voting on anything. Okay? And this little cushion that Trump gave to Janet Yellen's happy. She's going to be really happy that there's that cushion there, because they're going to talk about how are we supposed to. They can't sell debt. You can't sell debt when you had the debt ceiling. So this is why the Fed, they're going to talk about how you're going to be really angry and crazy about this whole thing. Oh, we got to do something. The debt ceiling. We need to sell more debt. Well, forbearance ends on July 31st. The debt ceiling is July 31st. Congress is done. They have 9 more days this month, and they're done. But there's that cushion there, and $50 billion a week, that gives you, what, about 12 weeks, right, with that $600 billion. That'll put you right about September 20th. So why do I get the feeling that we're going to have the end of July, so we have all of August, all of September. Why do I have a feeling they're going to beat that debt ceiling drum for 2 months into us, and it's a financial emergency, and we got to do something, and where's it going to end up, Brian? I think we're going to start seeing some real financial stress coming this year. I'll cover a little more of this on the way back in from the break. Stay tuned. This is the Patriot Trading News Hour. You got the Colorado Front Range News Hour running the show. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Second half of the Patriot Radio News Hour on a Tuesday, July 6th. Thanks for being here. Joe will be back tomorrow. Until then, you're stuck with the backup crew, Bryan and Jason, on this. This is interesting. International Kissing Day. I'm surprised that's still in place after what the world went through last year and is still going through. How about National Fried Chicken Day? We'll take that one instead, Jason.
Why do I get the feeling someone's going to come up with a lip condom the next time coronavirus rears its ugly head? I've seen some of those wacky products come out since coronavirus. Hey, you got to make a buck even during a pandemic, right? And so let me finish a little bit what I was talking about. I'll shorten it down, and I'm going to give you the simple response of what I'm talking about. You've got a large property giants buying up tons of houses before a so-called crash is coming. You got massive inflation that's rolling through here that's making the prices of everything go up. So as a property buying company, you wait till the crash happens, then you buy. So why is Blackstone buying billions and billions of dollars worth of homes, and other real estate giants buying tons right now? Because they must know something's happening to want to buy instead of sell. So I was talking about forbearance. I was talking about the debt ceiling. I'm talking about how that seems like they're timing something. We need to add, we need to add 1 more month. We need to add June to forbearance. Then we get to the end of June. Oh, we need another month. We need another month. We'll go to end of July for forbearance. Forbearance. These people are building up $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in rent. That's just the way it is. And when Trump signed on March 13th last year the emergency for the pandemic, he opened the checkbooks of all these governors to just start taking in free money to fix things. And now they're openly admitting, like in California, they're taking a whole bunch of that money that they got, and we're just going to pay all the forbearance for these poor people. We want to make sure they stay in their homes. Well, Brian, how does that make you feel that all these people weren't paying their mortgages and their rent, there in California, and now they're taking their piece of the government money, and they're just going to pay. They're going to pay their people they couldn't pay their rent. They're just going to pay that off for them. But I don't think that's happening in Colorado. What do you think of that?
That makes me very think about Independence Day in a much different light as a property owner.
Yes.
And I get when people are in tough times and they're getting some slack, but at the expense of the property owner. Property ownership, that's obviously been on the Dow climb. That's no longer something that that actually promotes independence, and the controllers can't have that. So
they want to wipe out
that
home ownership, Brian. They want to wipe out home ownership. They don't want us to own houses, and that's kind of what I'm getting at here. There's 800,000 retired people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, even into their 90s. They're behind on their rent. There's 140,000 homes that are in forbearance of some state, which means they owe more than just the monthly rent. And they keep pushing the ball to a certain timing. Like I said, the debt ceiling is the end of this month. But there's some extra money sitting in the pot. So when Congress decides to take their 2-month vacation, that's all the news is going to talk about. Oh, there's this emergency, the emergency looming. The government's going to shut down, who knows, September 10th or August 20th, whatever it is. That day, they'll just keep pounding the drum. But it's going to mean something here soon. And why do I get the feeling, Brian, that this is like bowling? Anyone's gone to a bowling alley? They have the little reset button. You bowl, and there's reset buttons. So the last crash, you got the 10 pins up there. You throw the ball, and you knock out 8 of them, right? But instead of taking the second ball, wiping the whole thing out, because they never wipe the whole thing out, they just want to wipe out all the suckers in their minds. You hit the reset button and you set up 10 more pins so you can knock down more, because you can only knock down 2 more pins, right, Brian? You don't want to just knock down 2 pins. Hit the reset button. Now you got a fresh set of 10 pins to knock out, and it really seems that they're resetting the table to wipe out more Americans, to wipe out more people's assets and their standard of living, and get people used to not owning homes, not owning cars, not owning anything. And this is why gold and silver is so important. It used to be that you put your money in the bank account and got interest. You don't get that anymore, right, Brian?
Tell you what they do tell you can own. You can own stocks. You can own Bitcoin. You can own crypto, whatever we want to call it. If it's currency or crypto assets, you can own all this stuff that don't worry about where it's at physically. And I get the technology. It's great idea, but there's always some aspect of control of those things.
Yeah, Brian, I get the feeling when this next market turbulence happens, I think there's going to be a lot of big guys in the market. They're going to sell stock, and I think they're going to buy property. And what they're basically telling, for our radio audience, if you're listening, this is what they're telling you. Take whatever money you have in the market or any other place you have it hidden and get it in hard assets. You don't have to go buy another home. You don't have to buy a rental property. There's a lot of time and energy that you have to exhume into property taxes and everything. If you want to go buy more property, go for it. It's going to be a better place to park money, I think. When everybody says on our end, housing, there's going to be a housing crisis and housing prices are going to crash, I really don't think so, Brian. I don't think so. You don't have big time players buying this stuff up in the middle of what's going on is a financial rental and a homeowner apocalypse that looks like it's going to happen. Our housing price is going to go down. Maybe they go down a little bit, but do you buy a house for $500,000? It goes down to, let's just say, $450,000. You get like a 10% haircut. But then when the so-called emergency ends, and it'll end fast, these emergencies are happening. I mean, look, last year with coronavirus, we had a 35% drop in the markets in March and April, and it came back before the election. So the powers that be, the big money, they know where to put their money. If they're putting it in property, you better believe, you listen to this show, gold and silver superior to this. The prices of gold and silver are suppressed the way it is, but they have to let that steam go, Brian. They can't control it. At some point, if they manipulate too much, enough of the pinheads that are watching Fox News and CNN and all this garbage on TV and watching their smartphone tell them what to do. I mean, enough of those guys will wake up for a minute, look around, and figure it out. So they got to play. Yeah, they have to tap dance just enough, right, to keep people asleep. And I really believe if the big guys are buying houses, Brian, this is This is a clear sign of gold and silver blowing up in the next year and in the next 5 years and in the next decade. You guys are gonna see gold at $25,000 an ounce. I think it's gonna be this decade, and it's not a good thing. You're gonna be happy you own it, but it's not. You're not gonna get rich off it when a loaf of bread is $25, right, Brian?
Yeah, just to back that up, rents soared 22% in the last year and a half since January 2020. Laguna Beach, California condo prices, and maybe that's cherry picking, up almost 300% since July of last year, a year ago.
And you can control a housing crash, Brian, by doing what California did. You have an emergency. What's the next emergency, folks? I just said it. Debt ceiling. And really what seems like an emergency to us is not the emergency economically that they're telling you on the news. Hey, the next time there's an economic emergency, Biden will be like, okay, we'll work with Republicans, and we're gonna throw a whole bunch of money out there so that what? So that New York can pay off all their forbearance. You know, so those Eastern Seaboard states can save their states, so we don't have Detroit up and down the Eastern Seaboard at the cost of what? Hardworking Americans in Colorado and Wyoming, conservative states. See how they're manipulating us all into. There's going to be no middle class.
This is how you get through the next debt ceiling. This is how you get through the next coronavirus. This is how you protect your assets when the powers that be are doing crazy stuff and inflating with fake money. I'm convinced at this point that every single thing that's going on with our economy in this country and essentially all industrialized nations on this planet is a complete controlled show. And we just turn the TV on and watch what they're doing as we slowly lose our standard of living day after day. So if you want one of those coins, you want to solidify your situation. I'd rather be a lord than a peasant. And the only way to become a lord is to own property and to own gold and silver. I'm not saying I want to be a big rich guy and look down on the little people, but there's a small opportunity in the next couple of years that maybe you can build your lordship by buying gold and silver, because the middle class and the business class will be wiped out. You're not going to see small businesses anymore. This next wave, this next crash that's coming, and I believe these crashes are going to come one after another every single year. Crash, crash, crash. It's just going to keep on happening. Not like as big as '08, but stuff that's just going to continually steal your hard-earned money and everything that you worked for. And the best way to do it is to listen to these shows like this, buy gold and silver, be smart about where you place your assets. You can do that with us calling 800-951-0592. That number one last time is 800-951-0592. The price on that gold piece, independently certified and graded by PCGS or NGC, $2,215. We sold out on the Mint-State 64s over the weekend, which shows you we're still selling some high quality coins, and people are picking them up and buying them up. So I got Brian working on the stream here. I got about a minute here. I was going to play a little bit about Independence Day. We got this guy Mark Dice that he'll do the man on the street kind of thing about how people really don't understand Independence Day. Let's let them walk around in California and see what they know about Independence Day. Free country, free of the bankers, free of their financial control and their religious control. Who cares about that anymore?
Celebrating 4th of July?
Yes, I do.
And what do we celebrate on the 4th of July?
Independence.
What started it?
I'm not too sure.
No. Long time ago, history class, 5th grade, they said something started this whole 4th of July celebration.
Yeah, nobody knows anything about American history anymore. We do.